pilot. A pilot in Argentina has had a very lucky escape after a wing fell off the plane during an aerobatic display. Over 3,000 people were looking on as the plane started plunging towards the ground. The pilot, Dino Moline, could activate a parachute which protects the whole plane. So slowed its landing, but it did fall to the earth and caught fire as well. 3 fire crews were there at the scene, and amazingly, the pilot walked away from the cockpit unaided and unharmed.
That is amazing.
You can see him there just strolling away from the wreckage.
It is like a movie hero. It is amazing, but I still think it would have hurt when he hit the ground, parachute or no parachute.
You'd think he'd have a few bruises, wouldn't you, after that?
You do, you do. From bruises to stings, get a load of this.
Yeah, and this could have been really nasty for a deputy sheriff in North Carolina. He was stuck in his patrol car because of these for several hours. A swarm of bees surrounded him. He'd pulled over on the highway to help a truck driver who'd broken down, but what he didn't know was that the truck was carrying 60 boxes of bees, and some of them had broken open.
But wouldn't it be fun if he had have taken off and got to a speed of about 100 miles an hour and watched them all blowing off his car?
Well, I suppose he could have done that. Maybe he didn't think of that one.
Yeah.
Perhaps they'd all clung on for dear life, but eventually he had to be rescued by some beekeepers.
Now, look, the whole business about plastic grass that I was talking to Jackie about earlier, Leslie Butterworth tells me he's a great fan of it, Charlotte. He said it's good for animals, and he also says that you can get plastic grass with daisies built into it, which is good. He recommends it for you, he said. But Wendy the Spendy, she's twittered me to say that the trouble with plastic grass is that it looks plastic.
Yeah, funny that.
And that's, yeah, so funny that. Here's Mehdi Hassan, on-looking in bewilderment to what we're talking about.
Bewildered by your use of the word twittered. For a man with 50,000 followers, Eamon, you need to get the lingo.
50,585, actually.
It's rather sad that you know that to the exact digit.
Mehdi, the front page of the Times is where we are beginning, and there's going to be a big benefit announcement today by the coalition government.
Well, they are already briefing the papers. This is the front page of the Times. Families to lose out in bonfire of the benefits. The Mail's got a similar front page. The Telegraph has got a similar front page. And the story is middle-class families will bear the brunt of a £13 billion reduction in the benefit system that will pay for other radical reforms, say the coalition. We're 100 days in, and we're starting to see more and more details of how these cuts... We talked in the last hour about whether this is going to hurt. We're now seeing it's not just going to hit the poor and the vulnerable and people who we don't care about, or people who are on the fringes of society, or people who are scroungers, and we'll come to that in a moment. It's going to hit the mainstream. The coalition are in real danger of being accused of betraying even more election promises. You'll remember David Cameron in the Sky News leaders' debate during the election in Bristol. He got very upset with Gordon Brown. His lip was trembling. He said, we're not going to take away the bus pass. We're not going to take away the winter fuel allowance. We're not going to take away free TV licence. Actually, they may be playing around with all of those things.
With some people. Now, is there going to be a massive backlash if they take away child benefit from pretty well-to-do families?
Well, the Lib Dems have actually, to be fair to them, they've always been in favour of means testing child benefit. They're actually to the right of the Tories on this. I think there will be, because I think a lot of people will say, we've paid a lot of money into the system, we have a universal welfare system. And yes, some journalists like to go on about the fact that we can't afford it and it shouldn't be universal, but there is something about things like child benefit that everyone feels we all pay in, it's something we all have, it's a part of this country. And let's see, we're told that we can't afford anything anymore. The coalition are obsessed about cuts.
Well, there's a few Twitterers telling me today you've got your head buried in the sand. You're just not prepared to take the pain, you see. And the public saying we expect this pain.
To be honest, people like you and I won't be taking that much pain. It's the people who will be losing
pain all the time.
It'll be the people who are losing their houses, who are having their housing benefit cut. It's people who can't find jobs, who've got unemployment.
Everybody's in it together.
That's just not true. So when the banks are given a let me put it to you, Eamon. The coalition cut corporation tax on the banks and raised VAT, the most regressive tax of all that hits poorest households more. That's not fair. We're not all in this together at all.
Well, you said there, then this very emotive headline, this is the front page of the Express,
yeah, I mean,
and it uses this term, lazy sponger here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that some of the tabloid press exaggerate issues of benefit fraud and the abuse of the benefit system, but let's not pretend. There are people defrauding the benefit system, and we have this case of a daughter kind of outing her own father. Jessica Bateman, 18, branded her father, who is on benefits and claims £30,000 a year from the state for 10 children and a 300 grand 5-bedroom house from the council.
Is he on a bonus per child or something?
She branded him lazy, useless and nothing more than a sperm donor. She says, I have to go to work, but my dad, who abandoned her, typically, as a child, and he's on to another wife and other kids, he takes his new family out to McDonald's for £60 a go and hired a stretch limo, Eamon.
Maybe she has a point here.
I do. I think maybe she does have a point. If a daughter is saying her father's only a sperm donor, and if the father uses benefits to hire stretch limos, then yes, there are people who do need to be taken by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, I wonder what you think of this Israeli conscript soldier. Should she be taken by the scruff of the neck? These are photographs, and they're disturbing by anybody's standards, and they're printed in the Daily Mail today.
They're in the Mail today. Actually, they were on my blog 2 days ago, so good to see the mainstream media catching up with me. Horrific pictures, I would argue, of an Israeli conscript who's now left the army. Her name is Eden Abigail, and she took photos of herself posing with the Palestinian detainees, smirking in front of them, as you see in the picture on the right. She put them on Facebook, and you might think that's bad enough, but then the comments on Facebook from friends of hers saying, you look sexy, you look great, these are amazing photos. And it was in a folder called My Fun, My Experience in the Army. She now says, I still don't understand what wasn't OK, and the army are being disgraceful by condemning me.
Well, maybe that says it all.
That says it all about the mentality of some Israeli soldiers.
Could we talk about Michael Douglas? We're both fans.
I'm a huge fan of Michael Douglas, Eamon. I've been watching him since I was a little kid, from Wall Street, Falling Down, Traffic, The Game, and he's got a new Wall Street movie out next month, but he's got throat cancer. And he's been smoking all his life. It caught up with him. He's been drinking all his life. And he's now going to be having chemotherapy 5 days a week. He may never talk again. He may never act again. Very tragic news.
Particularly cruel if that...
I mean, that's what, you know, that's your gift. That's your talent.
Yeah, that's his trade. And also, you didn't mention one of my favourite films of all time, which he starred in, The American President.
The American President, brilliant film.
Oh, I thought it a bit sentimental for you.
No, no. It was the makers of West Wing, of course, before West Wing came out. Very sentimental. And Annette Bening. That was it. Brilliant.
Do you know that film, Charlotte?
No.
It is a most beautiful love story.
And a beautiful speech from Douglas at the end when he takes on his rival.
I am the president.
Indeed.
He says. Finally, forecast story. This is one of our colleagues on the BBC.
The BBC News Channel.
You might be at the BBC very long after this.
Yesterday morning, just shortly before 11 a.m, Thomas Schaffernacker, the weatherman, was about to do the weather, and Simon McCoy, I believe he's a former Sky News presenter, who threw to him with a little bit of a sarcastic dig about the accuracy of his pronouncements, and he gave him the finger. He didn't know that he was live on air when he gave him the finger, and the best bit about the story is, not only did he give him the finger, but you look at the face, he's in horror when he realises he's been caught on air, and he pretends that he was scratching his chin. We've all done that, haven't we, Eamon? We've just been caught. Making faces and... No? Never done that? Just me?
Just you.
Just me? They can't see what we're doing right now, Eamon, to each other, can we?
Okay. There we go. Charlotte, I've warned you about that before. You will be caught one day. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mehdi Hassan from the New Statesman. Thank you. The website, Charlotte has just told me that she's got crocodiles in her back garden.
She hasn't.
I did not say crocodiles, but we do have snakes. Well, we have slow worms.
That's the next best thing.
And we think we've seen a grass snake as well, which they're quite rare.
My son had a snake on a stick in her back garden, and now he wants one for a pet.
And she won't let him have a snake as a pet. How can you believe it?
Quite right. Here comes the sports
We've had loads of tweets on this unusual pets thing, and someone did point out that more people are savaged every year by dangerous dogs than are savaged by crocodiles.
So that's because we don't have any in the back garden, see, except Charlotte's house.
Maybe. Tottenham trail 3-2. They only got eaten last night. They trail 3-2 in their Champions League playoff tie. Could have been a lot worse, though. They were 3-0 down.
Lucy, let's have that weather picture. What have you got?
Well, it's looking good for the Oval for the third test. Dry start, dry later, some showers in between, possibly bringing disruptions to play. And that's really the theme for the rest of us over the next few days. There'll be some showers, there'll be some wet weather, but also some sunshine from time to time.
Pages the newspapers for you after Charlotte with a rundown of what else is happening. What have you got?
An update on this train crash, and one person still in hospital in a critical condition. 20 others were injured after a train collided with a sewage tanker. It happened at an unmanned crossing at Little Cornard near Sudbury in Suffolk. And joining us now from the scene is Darren Little. And then, Darren, what's the latest on this morning? Put them down and kept them happy. Disaster averted.
How ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
Because I'm just thinking what I would have done.
What, you'd have run off screaming?
No, I would have gone to the nearest car wash. All those brushes, all those brushes and that water, that would have just got rid of them.
That would have seen them off, wouldn't it?
Never mind all that honey luring
Gently brushing them into
away.
A box.
No, just a big car wash brush.
Well, you'd have got a fire extinguisher out or something, wouldn't you, no doubt?
Yeah. See what happens. Right, we're going to have a look at the front page of the newspapers. Charlotte now with a rundown of what else is happening.
And an update on the train crash, and one person remains in a critical condition in hospital. 20 others are injured after a train collided with a sewage tanker. It's happened just after...